Thank you very much for having me here today, especially to speak at a conference with such an apt and chronologically perfect name. Aiming for excellence should be the desire of all who dream of, study for, and are part of this wonderful profession. In fact, in our school, we talk about it as more than a profession and actually a vocation. It's a privilege to be here today to share with you some of the work we've done on developing teaching and learning. Our national mission speaks clearly of aiming for excellence, with Kirsty Williams, Cabinet Secretary for Education, stating our national mission is to raise standards, reduce the attainment gap, and deliver an education system that is a source of national pride and confidence. In our own school, and I'm sure in every school in Wales, these aren't new or innovative aims. After all, if we haven't been working to these aims, what have we been doing? We do need to be reflective, however. Having pride in our education system is wonderful. We have fantastic teachers, vibrant schools, well-developed environments and worthwhile experiences, and a rich cultural heritage. But this does not mean we cannot or should not be looking for radical change. Our national mission is a timely blueprint for national self-reflection. Of course, we all work hard, and we know there are factors that hinder our progress. We can't easily replicate education systems such as Finland, Singapore, or Australia. We can't easily structure our schools as the US do or countries in Scandinavia do, and nor should we. Our national identity and current system should not be, to use the common tongue, the baby thrown out with the bathwater. As a pioneer school, we count ourselves very fortunate to have been part of the most significant and sustained period of real change in Wales, one that we are only just glimpsing the fruition of. To be able to take the ideals of Professor Donaldson's Successful Futures report through to the recent publication of the draft curriculum for Wales would be a momentous achievement for any nation. But this achievement is made even more special because of the foundations it's built upon, a root and branch curriculum change. What this new curriculum for Wales quite purposely does not give us is individual strategic direction on pedagogy. Schools are free to choose the specific methods of teaching and learning that fit with their specific contexts. As a consistently green A1 classified school with a positive working relationship with our challenge advisors and successive good inspections, we can justify being trusted with taking strong decisions about pedagogy. Our school chose to use the techniques drawn up within the book, Teach Like a Champion, because they fit with the needs and current position and expertise already within our school. We did this partly because of the meta-analysis and research in John Hattie's book, Visible Learning, where he separates out teaching and learning strategies and compares them using effect sizes. One of the methods we employ, somewhat preferentially in our mix of pedagogical approaches, is direct instruction. Direct instruction, according to Hattie, has a significantly positive effect size of 0.84, meaning it's shown sign within testing and research of producing efficacious student performance. Direct instruction, therefore, is a method we use widely in St. Cadoc's. We employ some specifically direct instruction programs, and we value teachers teaching. We don't set arbitrary time limits on instruction and student practice, nor suggest a ratio between these two. What we do insist upon is retention of learning. Teach Like a Champion dovetails in perfectly with our choice of approach. Teach Like a Champion enhances our teachers' ability to use direct instruction effectively. We do, however, share some of the concerns that Daisy Christodoulou raises in her book, 7 Myths About Education, about traditional instruction. One of the widely held beliefs that she has pains to disagree with is instruction is passive. Often we hear the public and some working within education talking about chalk and talk approaches and teachers talking too much, spoon-feeding learners information. Daisy doesn't agree. Done badly and without requisite deep knowledge, knowledge and skill, the learner experience of direct instruction can be ineffective, boring, and in truth, lead to little retention of learning. Behaviour issues can plague learning. Done badly, and indeed, then the myth does become a reality. This is not, however, true direct instruction, and the myth then does indeed become this is not true direct instruction. Daisy takes issue with the fact that during direct instruction, learners should be thought of as passive. This is less a case of an ineffective method and more one of ineffective application. Daniel Willingham writes in his book, Why Students Don't Like School, that the way learners learn is through thought, thinking deeply about what they're being told. We know, in fact, from non-educational scientific research that neural pathways are strengthened and made more efficient by repeatedly thinking about something. One phrase that I live my professional life by from Willingham is memory is the residue of thought. This links to one of the key tenets of Teach Like a Champion. One of the major sections is ratio. Ratio means teachers should actively plan for, provide, and encourage opportunities for learners to either think deeply or participate fully. It's all the better if you can hit that sweet spot where the two meet. Take a specific example, such as explain to learners a concept such as the water system. Giving direct instruction to learners in the form of a lecture could well be considered passive. You've got teachers doing most of the thinking and, in fact, most of the work. Learners with their chairs facing a board doing very little. Quite often, though, the active demand is conflated with physicality. Learners running around the room trying to find parts of the system, chairs banished to the walls, and children standing up as they're trying to puzzle out and eventually get to the correct answer. This is not the active that Doug Lemov, Daisy Christodoulou, or indeed I would aim to ensure was present within this lesson at least. Lemov suggests rather than focusing on actively moving the children around, that you actually get them to actively think at all points in your lesson. Making sure the learning is secure by checking for understanding regularly and ensuring that all learners are thinking even if they are not physically answering the question you're posing. Techniques such as cold call and pepper, where students are always on their toes and always needing to be ready, provide a necessary incentive to be active. These techniques aren't to catch learners out or to make them, it's actually to make them more industrious in their thinking and making sure there's not a minute wasted. Speaking of not a minute wasted, another technique called Every Minute Matters explains in detail how you can ensure every moment in a day is maximized. How teachers can snatch the time when children are lined up for assembly, transitioning between activities, waiting for classmates. They're all designed to waste not a minute of our finite time of schooling. This, in essence, is the premise of Teach Like a Champion. Each of the 62 techniques is designed to make classrooms and schools more efficient, either through modifying behaviours of learners or modifying the climate of a classroom. When designing the book, Doug Lemov watched many hours of live teaching from teachers he came to hold in high esteem, some in person, some video recorded. What he came to understand that although these teachers had distinct styles and taught varying subjects and learners of different ages and abilities, there was still one trait that connected them all. Their expectations were high. Aiming for excellence requires high expectations of all. And for us, one of the key tools we use to ensure our teachers have consistently high expectations is Teach Like a Champion. With our national mission talking of excellence and equality, Teach Like a Champion has served as a superb tool for our staff to work towards excellence. What the book discovers is commonality, but what it provides for schools is uniformity. Our national mission, searching for equality, needs to begin with minimizing class-to-class variation within the same school. We need to ensure learners are not getting a disparate diet of teaching quality. In a recent training with Tom Sherrington, author of The Learning Rainforest, he pointed out to us that research has shown having an adequate teacher for 2 years is better than having an inadequate and an excellent teacher in consecutive years. In short, uniformity of experience matters. Teach Like a Champion aims higher than adequate and shares techniques that aim to develop all teachers to be excellent. While we don't grade individual lessons, triangulation between book scrutiny, listening to learners, lesson observation and learning walks points towards an improvement from all. What's more is the learners also notice. In episodes of reciprocal peer teaching, another effective method according to Hattie, learners have been witnessed cold calling each other and using many of the techniques they see their teachers using on a daily basis very transparently. Thus, they create their own microclimate of accountability and rigor. If imitation is a serious form of flattery, I'd say it's a sure sign they know it works. Incidences of low-level disruption are now insignificant in number, which we believe is down to the constancy of learner engagement. This obviously has a positive impact on teaching time, because any time not managing behaviour is another minute you can focus on developing learning. In St. Cadoc, we draw upon the wealth of knowledge that has been gained from our own practice, rigorous educational research, and all that cognitive science tells us about how learners learn. One fact that we cannot escape is learners do not retain all that we teach them. No matter how well we teach a concept, simple brain science, as Ebbinghaus research tells us that much of what we teach won't be retained by the brain within long-term memory. His theorized forgetting curve demonstrates that revisiting is necessary using spacing, and retrieval practice will be needed to ensure retention of knowledge. The authors of Teach Like a Champion have curated their techniques to be suitable for use as either spaced or retrieval practice. Techniques such as turn and talk, where learners get a set question or stimulus to discuss for a set amount of time in a set sequence, can be used again and again, almost effortlessly as a teacher, with minimal resourcing and preparation. Turn and talk is a major accountability tool within the classroom because the question you could have asked one learner has to be answered by all. This allows the teacher to harvest the responses that you want to share with the rest of the class. You are more able to identify common misconceptions and draw attention to the responses you want everyone to make the next time. One of the key features is because the techniques are repeated almost every day, with some playing a part in almost every lesson, the mechanics of what learners have to do is actually not discussed, and learners quickly can set off on a task. Using turn and talk, cold call, and pepper alone, I'd suggest, as a conservative estimate, I have regained about 5% of the teaching time in my class. 5% of each lesson gains me 3 minutes in the hour, 15 minutes of the day, over an hour in the week, and the equivalent of having another full school day per half term on average. As I said, I believe these are conservative estimates, with further gains being made through streamlining behaviour management, using Teach Like a Champion techniques that ensure every moment of the day is used more effectively. These net gains in class should be celebrated and capitalised upon, but most importantly, used. Another way Teach Like a Champion has changed our school is through how we approach professional development. Currently, in lots of schools, professional development happens through transfer from one person to another. One teacher might be struggling with something, and the other teacher says, I do it like this. How about you give it a try? Teacher A might have identified when questioning pupils they are struggling to engage as many learners as possible. They've quite rightly identified passiveness within their class. What very often happens is Teacher B suggests a technique that they use that's completely new to Teacher A. What this process does on a small scale is provide Teacher A with one single strategy to use. One that works for the teacher in their specific context, in their specific classroom climate. Very rarely does the teacher get to observe it in situ, practice it with a peer, or be observed in their own practice trying it out. Often, these developments are left to trial and improvement. In terms of development of a teacher's practice as a whole, they can act as sticking plasters, papering over the cracks. In effect, Teacher A has self-identified, that they are a comparative novice, and we know as teachers, to become an expert at something requires highly structured guidance and support over time. This teacher-led level improvement, while laudable, has minimal impact upon whole school improvement. At best, it firefights pockets of ineffective practice, and at worst, it perpetuates variation between classes. In St. Cadoc, we have changed our view on professional development from expert-led strategy to a whole school development strategy. Teach Like a Champion is used by all, so that, rather than suggesting new strategies that teachers could use, we talk about how teachers can better refine the strategies they all use instead. Teach Like a Champion contains carefully created videos that demonstrate the techniques, and it also provides detailed notes for facilitators and participants to ensure techniques are learned effectively and by all. Within training, there's time for role play, practice, and refinement. One of the key features of Doug Lemo's book is his unashamed focus on the vocabulary we as teachers use and we expect the learners to hear. While this is useful for ensuring uniformity between classes and cohorts, so that learners know exactly what's expected of them within lessons and streamlining instructions, it has far deeper implications for professional dialogue. Our most recent round of peer observations were our most successful yet. Teachers were using shared vocabulary and understanding to discuss the techniques that we all use. Rather than teachers watching their peers and suggesting ways they can diverge from their current practice, teachers watch with the aim of helping their peers finesse the techniques they already use. Rather than being divergent, collaboration ensues. The feeling of always having to change becomes the reality of knowing we always have to develop. Flip-flopping becomes finessing. And I can tell you from experience, the latter has far wider impact than the former. We now have many teachers recording themselves and reflecting upon their own practice, asking peers to do the same outside of and in addition to normal performance management structures, all because of a desire for self-improvement. As a teacher and a leader, I am a strong proponent of Teach Like a Champion. It has dramatically improved uniformity and quality of teaching within our school. It has given us a strong framework from which to deliver a curriculum that is planned to have the maximum possible impact on the life chances of our learners. In essence, Teach Like a Champion is a tool to identify and use the commonality from identified champions and ensure uniformity within our school. It ensures that learners are working at all points during a lesson and that the learning takes place and sticks over time. It is founded on sound cognitive science and it's accessible for all. It helps us fulfill our part of the national mission by providing excellence and equality. If I could recommend one book for any prospective teacher, this would be it. Thank you very much.